It is the review show. Melbourne, three-peaters, just getting it done on the weekend against a formidable West Coast Eagles. Adrian Horton with you, Caden McDonald on the official, unofficial podcast of the Melbourne Demons, the Debrief. Kados, it's pretty late for me. I'm an old man. I'd probably be in bed by now, but you've saved the show. A couple of the boys have fallen through. Love them. It's a labour of love, so I'm not going to be dirty on them, but thank you for pulling through. You are certainly Alex Neil-Bullen's left, so what are you? You're the role player. You're the team man. What do you want to be? Chin? Are you Chin?
Well, I am nocturnal, so this is right in my wheelhouse. This is when you'll get me at my best. And look, always happy to hop on the pod. I've said this a million times before, but when I am on the pod, I do get a little bit gutted because I won't listen to this pod back. So I was sort of on my Spotify the last couple of days, trying to refresh, waiting for the review. Unfortunately for myself, I'm on it, but hopefully the Debrief faithful aren't sick of me yet.
No, certainly not sick of you. A lot of praise. I mean, everyone's got their favourites. Some people like the weirdness and wackiness of Nug. They like the analytical trends of Benjamin Lee. They like the big fella Scotty Horton just flying off the hammer every now and again, very emotional. Some of them like me, I don't know why, but they love your positivity, Kados. And it's been a positive 3 weeks. We're on a roll. We're winning games of footy, and it's an interesting spot to be in because I've been prefacing this for weeks. I think we knew that once we got the chocolates against Fremantle, we would get it done against Richmond. We would get it done against West Coast. They are very lowly opposition, those two teams. And it's all about setting ourselves for this period now. It's Hawthorn into Brisbane, into Sydney, into St Kilda, into Collingwood. I could go on. I think I know the whole list, which is scary. But that's the test now. Like, we've built some momentum. We've tweaked the game plan. It seems to be working. Goody's happy, he told us. Just remember, be calm, but get urgent. And the players have adhered to the messaging, and the supporters have jumped on board, and the pitchforks, they've subsided for now. Certainly my pitchfork that I was throwing about in the first 5 rounds. It's an interesting time. And do you know what? I don't know about you, but I'm really excited about what we're going to see on Saturday at the G. It feels like a free hit. It feels like all the pressure's on the Hawthorn Football Club. We're not expected to win. Go out, play with some freedom, boys, and let's see where we get to. And that's probably the position I find myself in as a supporter at the moment.
Yeah, it's a great time to be alive. I think a few weeks ago, and I'm not one to pat myself on the back, but after the Geelong game, I said, don't worry, boys. We'll win 3 of the next 4. Now, I had in mind that we would bank the Essendon win. I just thought, we've been able to get over them the last couple of years. So we'll go to Adelaide. We'll respond from the first month. It'll all click. We'll drop it against Freo, and then we'll win the back end of that little 4-game block. And when we lost to Essendon, I was really struggling. I was scrambling for answers. I thought, geez, is this going to be a season where we win 3 or 4 games? Have I denied myself the reality that we are garbage? But to come out, bank one against the Dockers, who aren't travelling all that flash, to be fair. I thought we'd sort of taken a top 6 scalp at the time. And then to just professionally get it done against Richmond and West Coast. Both games had their problems and had momentum against us. It's a nice little spot to be in, but I think after watching the last couple of weeks, we weren't able to throttle the bottom 4 sides by the tune of 10 goals. So I think it probably shows that we're not actually that much better than a bottom. There's not a big gap between us and the bottom 6 sides, but I don't think there's a massive gap between us and the top 4 sides. I think, like we showed against GWS, like we showed against the Freo type, we're going to be able to hang in there with the top 6, but I feel like we're going to leave the door ajar with the bottom 6, and hopefully we end up as a middle of the road side. There's some light at the end of the tunnel, and we can build a bit of a platform for next year. But we are going to be in those frustrating games where, I don't know, we made hard work of the Tigers and we made hard work of the West Coast Eagles. So it's good to bank the 4 points, but I think it sets up for a pretty frustrating season still.
Yeah, I agree. But that's what makes it exciting about the next 5 games. and I've grouped them. I've been speaking about them for quite a while now, and we're just about to get into it with the Hawks on the weekend. But to talk about the Eagles game and to not go into too much detail around the first half because it was blatantly obvious what the problems were, but at the end of the first quarter, we were 12-2 in clearances, but we're only up by 9 points. So we had such dominance in that first quarter. We had 14 tackles inside 50 in the first quarter. We were on record-breaking pace. It was insane. The ball was just living in our forward half. We were not generating enough score. West Coast themselves just kept missing at the other end. So we were letting a lot go through to the keeper from a transitional point of view. West Coast just not capitalising. But also our forward half dominance. It was really, really frustrating in that first quarter to just see us constantly wasting opportunities. And then it didn't get any better in the second quarter. We get to halftime and we've given momentum back to the Eagles. They applied the smallest bit of pressure for 5 or 6 minutes of footy.
Yeah.
And frankly, we actually crumbled under that pressure. So you're sitting there at halftime and you're going, fucking hell, this is classic Melbourne. I knew they would do this. We can win all the key indicators. We can be 21 plus for inside 50s, 21 plus for clearances. All the numbers were just so heavily weighted in our favour. But we've seen this script before. And the script that came back to me was the GWS game up north in the NT, where we completely obliterated them on the stat sheet, won all the key indicators that you could ever want to win in a game of footy. And I remember a stat came out, and it may have been Andrew Whelan who runs Wheelo, which is the great stats website. Another shout out to him. Thank you. It's like a Bible to me. And that game, if we amassed the amount of inside 50s that we did, clearances that we did, contested possessions that we did, blah, 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 that type of scenario would equate to a 40-point win. So that was the scenario when we played GWS up in the NT. And I had this horrible feeling going down a rabbit hole at halftime that we were going to have a similar outcome against the Eagles. Now, the good thing is we actually came out and we started to rectify some of the problems that we saw throughout the first half. And some of those problems were selfishness, bombing away and blazing long and not taking the handball receive options and working it up and taking that extra half second or second to think about who you were going to give the responsibility to with ball in hand or a handball that opens up the angles for us. There were forwards leading into space in the first half and we were just completely ignoring those leads. And it just felt like we got back to that very selfish version from the first 5 rounds. Then it just completely changed. Like we flicked a switch and they remembered. We've been doing things differently in the past 3 weeks. Yeah. And Jake Melksham was the embodiment of that. He was unbelievable in that third quarter. It was him, Chandler, Max Gawn, who we can speak about, who is just Herculean at the moment. He actually could win the AFL Coaches Association Award, which is fucking mental. He's 33. He's meant to be slowing down. He's showing no signs of it. He's on a different planet, Big Maxi, and we love him dearly. But I just wanted to fixate on Jake Melksham, Cade Chandler, but Melky in particular. He just doesn't waste a possession, Kados. And a few people were questioning him coming back into the team, and boy, did he shut them up.
He's so important for us, Melky. And, you know, he has been for a couple of years now. Like, I probably don't have to go back through the history lesson, but to anyone who's just joined the Melbourne Footy Club over the last couple of years, like Melksham was really important in the 2018 final series. Had some troubles throughout 2021, couldn't find his place in the side. I think he was in and out with injury, and him and Jonesy were sort of in the same boat, and it felt like they were both going to exit the footy club at a similar time, but Jake Melksham got that extra year, and he's just made the most of that extra opportunity. And it might have been 22 or 23 where we were starting to slide as a footy club and our forward connection was a bit of a mess, and he ended up saving the back half of our season. And then in like the final quarter before the final, you know, before finals, did his ACL, and it was really cruel at that age. And that was another sort of, that's Melksham done then. Then he comes back, and his first game back from injury might have been against West Coast last year. He almost took one of the marks of the millennium. And I was like, man, this guy is so old, and he's a medium-sized forward, and he's got the spring back. So once I saw that, I'm like, whatever work he's been putting in, through this knee injury, he's better. He's come back better at that age, which was very surprising. And had some injury issues to start this season. Got back into the side, and he's almost playing like a Spargo style role in terms of the connector, but he's the connector with like a lethal shoe. Like Charlie Spargo can hit a little 15-meter kick, and not many of our high half forwards can really chisel those little skillful dart passes in. But Melksham's almost like the connector of the 40-meter kick. He can kick both sides of his body. He can fight out of his weight class with his hands. So, I was watching the game. I was actually at a 30th birthday, and they had Geelong and Collingwood up on the big screen, and I'm sitting there. I was like, guys, put the real game on. This is garbage. Whatever you've got on here, just happened to be one of the games of the year. But I was fixated on Melbourne and West Coast, and two people kept popping up on the screen, and I didn't have the sound on. But Colton Tholstrop was just on screen. I'm like, has he kicked this one? Oh no, he's missed it. He just kept consistently popping up, and Jake Melksham was another. He was just involved in everything, especially in that second half.
And I think the distinct difference between Colton and Jakey was so measured, so assured with his possessions, and Colt was a little bit clumsy, a little bit clunky, and I thought rather that it was a kid that was trying a little bit too hard at
Back
times.
home.
Yeah, back
in
home.
front of the family. Like, I really want to kick a couple. I really want to have an impact. Every time I glanced down at my phone, and it was like the play had obviously stopped, and it was just fixated on Colton. I'm like, what's he done? Is he taken a mark? Has he kicked a goal? Has he missed? And every time the replay would be, he's sort of given a free away, or he's missed a shot on goal. But he just kept popping up for me. I found it quite humorous.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a player in there. He's got all the tools. He just needs to refine what he's got, and that'll come in time. He's only played 13 games for this football club, so I don't think we can get too hung up on some of the mistakes he made. But yeah, Jake Melksham was super impressive. The really simplistic stat for me in the wash-up, you can go into all the data and all the details, but we kicked 3 goals from 29 inside 50s in the first half. We come out after half-time, and we end up having 59 inside 50s for the entire game. So we have 30 inside 50s in the second half. It's a carbon copy in terms of how many times we go in there, but we kick 13 goals. So the method that Simon Goodwin likes to speak about consistently was just so much better. Players were leading up at the ball. Players were leading into space. Players were lowering their eyes, thinking about their kicks. Players were taking the game on. Like Caleb Windsor's goal was exceptional. I absolutely love that goal. And then another one that was the polar opposite, but again, it was a player just taking on the game, was Cade Chandler, when he decided to run around a couple of Eagles opponents close on the line and bin that one in. So it was a very different Melbourne outfit that came out in the second half. Again, we've played just one quarter of footy, and we've broken a game open in the same way that we did against Richmond.
The third quarter again as well.
Yeah, I know. It's always the third quarter.
Yeah.
So it's just like, how much of what we've seen in these good passages of footy, or these good patches of footy, these 20, 30, 40 minutes max, can we just bottle that up, Caden, and try and extrapolate that over the course of an entire game? I would say probably not, because we're a raw team. We're trying to balance it out with these senior heads and these younger guys coming through, and this is just the nature of the beast and what comes out in the wash. But that's going to be the real challenge for us coming up against Hawthorn and some of these better outfits in the next few weeks. It's, can we replicate that for a little bit longer? And when we don't have ascendancy in the game, it's going to be about how we defend in transition for me. Because there were times when Richmond got the better of us in transition. There were times when the Eagles got the better of us. And I think that is still a part of our game that we're still trying to figure out. We're getting better, but that can be so exposed against teams like Hawthorn, who, when they win their one-on-ones in the back half, they just go. They're just out. They just stream forward through handball. And that's the big, big watch for Melbourne coming into this week, is how we set up the ground and how we defend them, particularly when they're counter-attacking. It fucking scares me a little bit, because they're one of the best teams in the comp to do it. That's going to be the big, big thing, I think, for Goody and the players this week, when they sit down and analyse how can we try and limit and restrict this Hawthorn team?
What is a positive, and it is exciting, is we're getting good supply. Like the inside 50 numbers, even when we were getting rolled by 10 goals, we're up around the 50 mark. And that's when Gary Lyon was on AFL 360 after the Essendon loss. And he mentioned that we had won the inside 50s in every game, and teams who won inside 50s in 2025 had won 75% of games played or something like that. But that was enough to sort of send a little glimmer of hope that we're in it. Even though the margins are big and we feel so dysfunctional, we're actually, from a game plan perspective, something's working. So, yeah, 60 inside 50s is a lot, and I'm glad that we started to score in the second half. And, you know, I know we all wait for that perfect game where we fully capitalise on that amount of supply, and maybe that's a mirage that won't really happen because AFL footy, you know, there's so many bounces of the ball and team defences are so good now that, you know, maybe if we can move it end to end and get it in there, it's still pretty hard to score at this level. But that amount of supply is very exciting.
It is. I spoke about Chin, and I think we should focus on him for a little bit. It's a great year that he's putting up. He has the 26 disposals, kicks a goal, has a goal assist, has 8 tackles, which was huge as well. Very involved in our pressure game. I think he's top 5 in the BNF at the moment. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we made mention of it recently that it's guys like him that need to step up to the plate and fill that void of Alex Neil-Bullen. The thing that he's got over Nibbler is he's super explosive. So I never looked at Alex Neil-Bullen as a player that could burst his way out of a contest in the same way that we see with Chin at times, take on a couple of players and kick a goal from a ridiculous position. Alex Neil-Bullen, love him. He worked his socks off, but he had his limitations, whereas I feel like Cade Chandler is much more dynamic. The most exciting thing, Kados, is we're not even close to the finished article of this bloke, I think.
Yep.
And I think this guy is sleeping on a number of different people around the league, media pundits, opposition supporters. I get the feeling that Cade Chandler and the way that he speaks in the media as well will become that leader in the same vein as an Alex Neil-Bullen. I just think his upside is so much greater than him. And again, that's not disrespect to Alex because we absolutely loved his output for the footy club in the last 3 or 4 years of his time with us. And he's doing really well at Adelaide. But it feels like we're just starting to unlock a serious footballer. I don't know if I really care too much about we decided to go with Cade Chandler over Toby Bedford debate anymore. Who cares? Toby Bedford's a great player, and I love watching the way he goes about his footy at GWS, and he fits the mould of that team perfectly. He understands his role. Fair play to him. I don't know if I really care about, who's the better player in the comparison game. We're always comparing.
Yep.
I'm just really glad that, yes, if we decided Cade was our man, that he's bearing fruits at the moment and he's proving the point that we put a lot of time and effort into him. He had to do his time down at Casey, but now we're starting to see what continuity does to a player, and a player that works his socks off, and a player that understands the system and the coach better, because sometimes it can take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years for players to blossom. And don't forget, Christian Petrarca didn't blossom until his 5th year. For the first 4 years, there were a lot of people going, far out, he doesn't look like a number 2 draft pick to me. So this is just, I think, the turning point for Cade. And I'm so excited about what the future holds for him because, as I said, I see some leadership material in there as well.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it. And you are right, he is more dynamic than Nibbler. He can kick the freaky goal. He can sort of capitalise on a half chance. His pace is a real asset. I think, once again, it'd be great if I looked these sort of stats up, but I'm pretty sure he clocked one of the fastest speeds for us either last year or in the first couple of games. Like, he's definitely one of the quickest players on our side. And then I like his marking. Like, he can take a cheeky little hang and can get up there with his hands, which is always an asset as well. So, love Cade Chandler. Love what he's been doing this year. And that style of player, and we might have touched on it before, but that player between Track and between Harvey Langford are the players we need to take that next step. And we've been patient with your Tommy Sparrows. We've been patient with your Jake Bowies, and they're so young in terms of the league. And there's some players that don't fully blossom till 27, 28. And you've got to put that time into them. And we've got a lot of players that aren't, like, I wouldn't say they're droppable, but then they don't quite perform the way we want to at AFL level. So it gets this frustrating period where it's like you're way too good for the VFL and you are important to us in the AFL, but we just need that extra 5 or so disposals. We just need that extra 1 goal. Because I feel like a lot of these players in that 20 to 23 range, they play their role perfectly, and that's what we've really developed well with this footy club. Like, players will come in like a Lindsay, and he'll play that role at 18, and we go, man, he looks like a 200 gamer. But then when like a Lindsay type gets to 22 and he still plays that role that he did at 18, we start to go, well, when's he going to develop and start using it? And I think Jake Bowie's one of those players who came in, would get 12 touches, play a really hard defence on one of the smalls. And when he was doing that at 18, it was like, oh man, he's over-exceeding our expectations. But when he still performs like that at 22, that's when we get impatient. And then it might take that 18 months or that 2-year lag where it finally clicks for them. And I'd put Jake Bowie in that category as well, who's taking that next step. So it's awesome what Chandler's doing. You know, I look across this team, and there's so many kids under 24 who have All-Australian potential, and I think Cade Chandler definitely has All-Australian potential. He's so consistent, plays his role, and now he's getting his desserts on the scoreboard as well. And that leadership piece is a bonus for us with him.
Oh, big time. I think the other player that I've been excited about him for a while, and some people don't or haven't really understood the hype, but a good friend, Adrian Franklin, he said it to me today on the phone. He's a big D's man. And he said, Disco just needs to realise that you can fucking play at this level, mate. Like, you've got it. You've got all the athleticism. You've got a little bit of mongrel bastard. I like the way that he manoeuvres his body in aerial contests as well. I thought he was brilliant behind the ball. He had 6 intercept possessions to halftime as a defender, and then Harrison Petty goes off with concussion. He goes up forward and he kicks the 3 goals, and he's got the little goose step in him when he kicked that one, the top of the goal square. He's the full package for his size. He's about 193, and that's what Adrian was saying to me on the phone. He's just like, Daniel, just realise that, like, you have the skill set, you have the tools to not only be an AFL player, like, you are an AFL player, and you are not only fit for the level, like, you can do damage at the level. So I think it's just a confidence thing for Disco, and I come back to it, continuity. He hasn't had it. He's just constantly in and out. Another injury bobs up. He gets, maybe last year he gets 5 or 6 games, and then he cops a little injury, and then he's out again. The other thing as well is I just don't really care about whether he's forward or back anymore, because I'm into the versatility of him. So I've completely changed my mind. If you want to play him forward, play him forward. If the game dictates that he needs to go behind the ball, great, whatever. Like, what an asset. And I look at James Sicily and I look at Hawthorn and the way that they utilise him. And I don't know if I've said this on this podcast before, but if I was starting a team in the AFL, I would almost pick James Sicily as my first player, because you get maximum effort behind the ball. You get maximum effort in front of the ball. He can win you games off his own boot. He can save you games if you're under the cosh. And then the other thing is he's got leadership material. So if Daniel Turner ends up becoming something akin to that or close to that, we have a serious player on our hands. Now, that is me getting over dramatic about the prospects of Daniel Turner, but I'll stick to it because I genuinely believe that this kid, all he needs is the confidence to know that he can influence games in a big way. And I'm hoping that Saturday night was a step in the right direction, because not only was he incredible behind the ball, he was so good when he went forward. And please, for the love of God, the footy gods, just don't give this kid another injury because he just needs a run at it now for me.
Yeah, no, he's been awesome, and he debuted as a defender, and I wasn't sold on it, and he went off early in the Queen's birthday clash, and I don't know, I thought he looked a little bit lost in the first half of that game. And then he came back as a forward sort of middle of last year, and I loved it. Like, I really loved the size of him, the athleticism. I don't want 3 Jacob Van Rooyens. Like, as much as I love Roo, like, I like that we might have a pack crasher, but then we might have someone who's a little bit more athletic but not afraid of the contact in Daniel Turner. And then when he went back in the Freo game, that actually like sort of sped me up on how good he is as a defender. Like, that actually fully filled me in on the full picture of Daniel Turner, and he was only in the back line for a quarter or a half before he went down injured. But I actually realised, like, oh man, like he could play both positions. And then he did it in one game on the weekend. And I'm with you. Like, Daniel Turner plays every week, but he's good enough to play either end. So what a great asset to have. And like on the weekend, does he just tag Sicily? Like, does he start forward and play like a defensive forward role, but, you know, go and play your own game, Disco, try and get on the scoreboard, and then say they pull the lever where Sicily goes forward? Does he just follow him up the other end? And maybe he'll learn a lot from just spending 4 quarters on him. But yeah, such an asset. And I think Tommy McDonald could play either end. Like, if Tommy McDonald started in full forward next week, I'd be a little bit gutted because his form's been so good in defence. But he's not a liability up forward. He can compete. And then Petty, like, I know we laugh about Petty going forward and Petty going back, but he's very versatile as well. So it's cool that, you know, ideally we nail down where these guys are playing week in, week out, and we solidify it, and we get continuity in those positions and really hone their craft. But you can take the opposite view and think that it's actually a real asset that multiple blokes can play multiple positions.
Yeah, I think it's important. And I think it's important that we made some tweaks, and like Jack Viney as well. Listen to my voice. I can't get over this cold that I've had for 2 weeks. Pardon me. But Jack Viney, just his tagging role as well. So just let's simplify it. Let's get Jack into the game. Okay, how do we get him primed and how do we get him focused? And the coaching staff just said, all right, it's simple. You're tagging. And it's worked just perfectly, absolutely perfectly. And it was a great example of it on the weekend again. Harley Reid, not in the best form, certainly not the player that he was last year and going through a bit of a malaise at the moment. But I loved how Jack had 6 tackles in the first quarter and was just roughing him up. And it was just like, we remember what happened last year, Harley. You took the piss. You're on the front pages of every newspaper in the country. You were the talk of the town, not only in Perth, but the whole nation, really. And Track had to watch the goal of the year at the Brownlow, and we all had to live that experience again. And Jack Viney just rocked up to Optus Stadium and he was just like, no fucking way, mate.
Yeah.
So it was great from Jack Viney, and I'm loving the fact that he's responded as well as he has. And Max Gawn. So the 2 leaders, the skip and the vice skip, have just gone from strength to strength. And Max Gawn's last 3 weeks. Like, I don't know what to say, Caden. I say the same thing every week. Or most weeks. I wasn't really saying it for the first 4 or 5 weeks because everyone was shitting the bed. But Max Gawn's response has been formidable, extraordinary. 35 disposals on the weekend. I was the happiest I got was when he kicked his goal.
Yeah.
Because he'd missed so many. It was 7 consecutive behinds, I think, off the top of my head. But he finally kicked that one through. He puts the arms in the air. King Max. But it's just stupid. It was just a stupid, outrageous game from Max. And, like I said it before, we could be sitting here talking about a man that takes out the Coaches Association Award, and the Brownlow's a gimmick. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
It doesn't work anymore. We've spoken about that at will. The Brownlow's a night for you to get on the red carpet and schmooze with all the players and do your content. The Brownlow isn't it for me. I don't really care for it. If he actually goes out, let's do a hypothetical, and wins the Coaches Association Award at the age of 33 and gets an 8th All-Australian jacket, the debate about him versus Dean Cox, shut up. It's fucking closed. It's done. It's Max. And also the debate about him potentially being the greatest demon of all time, that is a very real thing now. It has to be.
Did he win the Coaches Association before 2018?
He has.
And then he was one of the favourites to win the Brownlow. I think Tom Mitchell had a real gap and a half in the market where sort of halfway through the season, people thought that he had already, walked it in. And I remember Max was one of the favourites, and I don't even think he came in the top 10 or 15. Like, he just got nowhere near it. And Gussie took all his votes.
Oh, Gussie, of course.
So, yeah, he wasn't even there. So, man, but you'd have to think he was best on for us against Richmond, and he was best on the weekend. So that's 6 votes. And then I reckon there was against Sean Darcy. Oh, no, because he went ballistic. But, so we're already talking around 8 to 10 votes, and we're not even by round 8, if they're serious. So maybe...
They won't vote for him.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be Jake Bowie off the back line or something. It'll pinch all the votes. But, Max, it is just leadership personified. Like, he'd rock up to Triple M twice a week, and we're 0-5, and Titus is ribbing him, and Nick Rewalt's ribbing him, and Mick Malloy's getting into him. And he was just, once again, he was cool, calm, and collected. And there wasn't really an urgency, but you could tell that he wanted to turn the ship around. And because he is cool, calm, and collected and funny, I didn't know whether he was taking the piss a little bit and almost once again, I was full-blown in denial, and I was wondering whether he was in denial about where we were at. He was sort of like, yeah, we're 0-5 and we've got to get going soon. And I'm like, it's too late, mate. Like, the season's gone. What are you talking about? You haven't acted earlier. But he was just so steadfast about where the club was at, and he wasn't panicking. And this is a man who's seen us do it all. So I felt like I could have sensed if he was being disingenuous or if he was a little bit worried about the state of the footy club, if he was. But he was just so confident, and he was like, yeah, we're making some changes, got some young players, it'll click at some point. We're working really hard. Like, I'm really confident in where we're going. And it's just so cool that his performance has grown throughout the last few weeks, and he's almost put us on his back. And we're probably, we've won 3 in a row, but it's taken 3 individual efforts to get us 3 wins. Like, without Cos, we probably lose to Freo. Without Maxi, we probably lose to Richmond. And without Maxi, we probably lose to West Coast. Oh, well, we'd probably still find a result there, actually. They're not much chop. But thanks to Maxi, he cemented the victory for us in his performance. So, yeah, he's just amazing. And like, when he got given the captaincy, I was like, what are we doing? Like, we've just had Jack Viney and Nathan Jones, and now we're giving it to the quirky guy on the footy show. But he's just taken the leadership on in his own way. He's delivered us the ultimate success, and he still, to this day, really drives the footy club. And, I don't think we could ever repay the man for what he's done. And even like this year, 0-5 and digging us out of that hole. I know there's a long way to go this season, and we're still going to have peaks and troughs, but just so thankful that that's the man at the helm.
So thankful. And also thankful because if you go on his Instagram at the time of recording, I
saw that.
Yeah, I think it's his sauna at his place, and Clayton Oliver's there, and Clary's in the sauna at Gawny's, and we know that Clary's going through some personal issues, and it seems to be mental health related. And I think it's great that Clayton put his hand up and was vulnerable enough, and just happy to make the call. And it's a different time now. We live in a different day and age. And I mean, I grew up on a farm. It was pretty harsh. My granddad was pretty harsh on us, but he's a great man. Love him dearly. Named after him. Very proud of that. And yeah, a bit of sticks and stones back home, and the way you grow up out in the bush. Times have changed. It's okay. It's okay for men to feel vulnerable. It's okay for men to speak up. It's okay for men, if they're employed by any organisation, to tell their employer, I'm just not up to it. I don't feel right. And I know it's a high-pressure environment. I know he's getting paid a ridiculous amount of money. But for me, that all goes out the window. The money's irrelevant. Look at Robin Williams, for God's sake. There are examples of celebrities around the world that seem to have the perfect lives, and they're sad and they're not in a great headspace. And I've been there. I've had my time where I haven't been in a great headspace and been down a bit of a rabbit hole, and thankfully not there at the moment. And if Clayton is in that headspace at the moment, the thing about Max and just seeing that Instagram story, Caden, it just warms my heart because, again, it just speaks volumes about the man's leadership. He is so in touch, I think, Max. I think he just gets it. I think you speak about that Triple M interview. People want him to come out and say something about the coach, or, you know, I'm not happy with this player, or people want him to create a headline.
Yeah.
And he goes, you know what? It's pretty shit. We're 0-5, so we're not going to sugarcoat it. But it's not like we're not rocking up to training and working our socks off. It's not like we don't have a blend of young players coming through. So there are reasons why we've been inconsistent in that first 4 or 5 weeks. And it's even people like myself that get a little bit emotional at the time. Goody's got to go. We need change. We need this, because we love this football club so much. And it takes a really calm, cool, calculated individual like Max Gawn to just strip it back and say, hey, it's shit, but we're going to do everything in our power to turn it around. And it takes a very special human and individual to take in a vulnerable, fragile person like Clayton, if that's what he is, if we read between the lines, and take him in and go, hey, mate, come over, jump in the sauna, let's talk it out. I know he put him up at his house for a little bit as well when he was going through some troublesome times last year. He's the full package. He's an incredible footballer on the field. There's no doubt. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. But I think the thing that I've always liked about Max more than his footballing prowess is the man is just so in touch. He knows what needs to happen in whatever situation. And for me, that's a true leader. And I've worked around a few people like that in my career, and I've been very fortunate to have mentors like that in my career. And someone who knows what to do in any situation, for me, that's a leader. And that's what Max Gawn is. And seeing that story, I loop back to it, it genuinely warmed my heart.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. And just like a little hint and a little message to the Melbourne Footy Club supporters, and just sort of being like, I don't know, you hear so much on the socials and so much rumour and innuendo, and just to sort of, I don't know, put out a little calming hint that Clary's okay. Was really great. And just to touch on Clary, and not that we know anything that's going on, and nor should we, to be honest, but if he has had the emotional maturity to sort of call it before it snowballs again and gets out of hand, I think that's like amazing and like really commendable. And I think we saw Track come out after on Fox Footy after the game and really give Clary a big pump up. And I reckon there was a couple of radio interviews where some of the boys did something similar, like really give him a rap about how he's handled himself and come out and sort of acknowledge his mental health. And I don't know if that is true, that he has identified some signs and wants to get ahead of it before it snowballs again, then I think that's amazing. And it's a credit to Clary and all the work that he's done across the last 18 months, because it's not easy. Like, you know, as you've touched on, and I've touched on before on multiple platforms with mental health, like to be able to acknowledge it before it starts isn't always easy. It's sort of, you'll get a month in and you go, oh, fuck, I've been a bit flat here, or geez, I've been eating shit, or geez, I've been on the piss a little bit too much. Like it's almost like you subconsciously go through it before going, oh, how did I get, oh, fuck, I'm in it again, I'm an idiot. And then that's when you start your fitness and you get off, you know, the piss and the start eating a little bit cleaner, and you make those adjustments. But to sort of acknowledge it before you fall back into those traps, I think's awesome, and a credit to Clary and the footy club and everyone that's been helping him.
The other thing as well, I've got a few friends, I won't name them, but people saying, oh, you better be back this week. We've got Hawthorn.
Yeah.
It's a big game. Just doesn't matter.
Yep.
It just doesn't matter. It's a game of sport. Again, I know he's on big money. I know he plays for our football club. We pay our hard-earned. We're members. We're supporters. We buy the merch. We go to the games. It just doesn't matter. It's not important. The important thing is his health and well-being. It's the most important thing by a country mile. I'm leaving a job. I've enjoyed it, but it's crippled me. I need to get out.
Yeah.
I need to get out. And I was very frank with my boss about it, and he's been amazing, and he's been so supportive. And he said, mate, you know what? We love having you around here, but if you can't sustain the role because it is affecting your mental health, it's not worth it. And it's not worth it. So my example, maybe there's a minuscule shred of relevance to it when we speak about Clary, but I just think all of the things around contracts and all of the things around being a big name and having a big profile, it's just not important. It's not important. It doesn't matter. And the most important thing is that Clary comes back when he's ready. It's as simple as that. I don't think anything else matters. And we'll have the Sam McCluers of this world going out and drawing longbows and creating a shitstorm around stories like this. And if anything, that speaks volumes about his makeup and his personality. And it shouldn't happen because, first and foremost, we should be putting the person first and their health and well-being first. But we'll have these little vultures out there with their own pitchforks campaigning against him and doing everything to tear him down and tear down the fabric of this football club. And I don't need to go into the weeds on that. I've spoken about that at length, the way that the media have treated our football club in the past 12, 18, 24 months. It was horrific. I've got receipts. But we probably brought a lot of that on ourselves as well. Like we weren't perfect. We know that. But as a football club, at least we've acknowledged it, and I think we're starting to move past it. And if anything, Caden, to jump from the Clary conversation to the young kids that are coming through, they seem to be having a blast. So talk about kids coming into a footy environment, and I mean, we're not inside the four walls, but I've got friends that work at football clubs, head physio down at Carlton, a mate who's an assistant down at the Bulldogs, and you speak to different people in the industry, and I've got enough connections at different football clubs to know that the environment is everything, and you want these young kids to walk into an environment that's loving and wrapping your arms around them and ensuring that they've got the right program, they've got the right mentors around them. And I look at Harvey Langford, and I look at Xavier Lindsay, and I look at Caleb Windsor, and I look at Jake Bowie, and I look at Trent Rivers as well, who's a bit more of a senior head, and they all look happy and healthy and like they're enjoying their footy. So the thing that doesn't wash with me sometimes is, oh, it's dreadful down there. Oh, their culture's stuffed. Well, apparently the Bulldogs' culture was stuffed, I was told. Look what they're doing. And do you know what? To bring it back to our football club, I think the last 3 weeks and seeing the smiles on the faces of those young blokes that I mentioned and the buy-in and the love and the care and celebrating the small wins on the field, I think they've got back to loving their footy. I was hypercritical of this whole love mantra. I really was, because I just thought it was hogwash because we obviously weren't playing good footy. And again, that's the emotional side of a supporter and myself. But I just look at those kids in recent weeks and I think we do have a good environment. It would help if we had the home base. We won't go down that rabbit hole. But clearly there's some really impressive senior players at this football club who are taking these young kids in, and we're starting to see the best of them. And Harvey Langford, Xavier Lindsay and Caleb Windsor, like again on the weekend, Caden, some of the things that they're doing, and they're in the infancy of their careers, and we're just like, oh yeah, that's just what they do. And it's like, well, hang on, you got to check yourself for a little bit and go, that guy's a first-year player. That guy hasn't even played 10 games. That guy's in his second year. And they're just so comfortable at the level, and that's what excites me. They look happy and they look like players for the future, and that's what this season almost has to be about. We need to laud and celebrate the senior players, Max and Jack and Christian, who's starting to play better footy. But we also just need to sit back and just enjoy these kids. These kids are good.
Yeah, they're very good, and every show that they get spoken about on, a Kane Corns or a David King or pretty much anyone, they always mention, even if they are hypercritical about us, that in 24 months to 36 months, not even that far, I don't reckon, but we're going to see an upside, and we're going to see the graph start trending upwards given those kids. And I saw that Lindsay, Windsor, Tholstrop, and I can't remember the last name, but they all moved into a house together. And as you mentioned, like, I am seeing signs, whether it's across the social media or, on the shows and whatnot, they do get around each other. Like, they're genuinely mates. They're all coming through together. We had four first-round draft picks in 2 seasons. Like, they're all the same age. They're all cut from the same cloth. I love that we chuck them into the DNA group, and Mark Williams takes them every Monday. And I don't know, the development is great at the footy club, and it has been for a long time. So it's great that we got some sustenance. The young fellas got to taste some victories. I love that they're all in the same team at the same time as well. Like, Langford getting dropped and was the sub, and that was a bit of a mess at the start. And then Tholstrop had his stress fractures, so he couldn't get in. Like, that was annoying, but it's cool that, like, pick 7 and pick 13 and pick 6 and pick 11 are all playing at the same time, because hopefully they're going to play a lot of footy together.
Now, I'm going to start wrapping it up because I'm getting really sleepy here, and it's late. So, I know you're in your sweet spot and you could probably talk for 2 hours, but I would have been asleep probably 40 minutes ago, which is crazy. But that's the life of a parent with a 10-month-old and a 3.5-year-old. Now, Kados, before we do go and wrap it, was there anything else you wanted to get off your chest? Was there anything that you can think of? Do you want to talk about Wattle Park? Where are you at?
I almost wanted to talk about the Prez
Well, I got Prez on the list. He was
the CEO or whatever he's.
My mind. You read my mind.
Is he CEO?
CEO. Sorry, yes, Paul.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you've touched on him yet, but a name I've never heard of, and a quirky-looking cat. But in his chat on Footy Classified, I thought he flat batted a couple, and he sort of puffed his chest out, and he spoke with a bit of authority, and he sounded businessy and ruthless, which I liked. And I know he doesn't have the footy background, but he spoke about how the future of sports is merging it with business. And I don't know, the way that Eddie Maguire spoke to him with a level of respect. Now, I listen to Eddie Maguire's podcast, and I love Footy Classified, and Eddie Maguire over the last little bit been hypercritical about the D's, just about the way we've sort of been running ourselves. And
fair enough.
He's a really, like, when Eddie Maguire speaks, and I know everyone thinks he's a flog and whatnot, but I love the authority that he speaks with, given the experience and the standing he's had in and amongst the game, and the way that Eddie loves the history of the game as well. And when Eddie used to commentate, especially D's games in like 2015, 2016, when he was on Fox, he used to almost barrack for us as if he was a little kid celebrating the Ron Barassis. Like, Eddie Maguire loves the history. He loved, there was one game we beat Richmond at the MCG, and I reckon Bernie Vince kicks 5, and it was Saturday Arvo, and Eddie Maguire's like almost riding us home, and he's talking about the history of the two clubs. And so when Eddie Maguire speaks, I just respect it a lot. And he was talking to our new CEO with a level of respect about what he's done behind the scenes and what he's done in and around Melbourne, the city. So from that point of view, and from the Footy Classified chat onwards, I'm sort of, you know me, I'm in no matter what. You put the red and blue tie on and I'd froth you. You put the red and blue polo on, I'm all in. You Jimmy Tompus and you got the bloody Guernsey on, and I'm whipping you home till the cows come home. But I don't know. I like the way he sort of started for us. And, there's a couple of confusing elements, like why he's not starting till October, and, who's in charge until then. And if we were to make a call on people in and around the footy club, who would be making it? And so there are definitely confusing elements about it, but I just thought he handled himself in the first couple of days pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. I think he summed it up well. And I think a ringing endorsement from Eddie, there's a lot of kudos in that. There's absolutely no doubt about it. So I tend to agree. I think the thing with Paul Guerra is he's got great links to government, obviously, because he's had a lot of those particular roles in the past. So for me, if this is purely to get Casey over the line, I'm happy.
Caulfield.
Sorry, Casey, far out. That shows you.
Get Casey off the line. Get Casey far away from Casey. Imagine he locked us in for 20 years at Casey and built an extra oval.
Fucking hell.
Oh, no, Paul, what have you done? I had faith.
More Casey, yeah, cheers, mate. Love it. Yeah, that shows you how tired I am because, as I said, I should be sleeping right now, but that's okay. Yeah, Casey for 20 years, Casey for life. Yes, Paul, if you can do Caulfield, yes, like done. You're in my good graces. Job done. Job done. So, yes, you've got to balance the books. You've got to keep growing revenue and blah, blah, blah. And yes, on-field performance correlates with off-field performance. It does. So, sort it out. I'll speak about Paul and his role in more detail as we go on because, I mean, he's not in there yet. And the other thing is we'll get the opportunity to interview Paul at some point. So I've spoken to the footy club. I'll get my serious cap on. I'll get the Benny Lees of this world to jump on, maybe even Lloyd Tofflon, the very serious the suits. I'll get the suits to jump on with me and we'll talk to Paul Guerra, who will be in his Melbourne suit with his Melbourne tie.
Nice.
We can talk about the future of the Melbourne Football Club at some point in time. But I tend to agree with you, Caden. Like everything you said there, I'm on board. Let's see how it goes. It was an extensive process. It took a long time. So clearly he presented well, and it'll be really interesting to see some of the things that he wants to do. He's very ambitious. He thinks it can be a destination club.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Some people go, oh, it's just spin, it's PR.
Yeah.
Everyone says the same shit. But, I mean, I'm that person who says, well, you got to shoot for the stars.
Yeah.
Because if you shoot for the stars and you hit the ceiling, that's okay. If you shoot for the ceiling, you'll stay on the floor.
Yep.
So, why not? So I'm all about it. So we'll get him in. We'll see where it goes. Other than that, just a quick couple of mentions. The Kade's tees, the little demon that you've seen on the socials, go to our link in bio on Instagram. There's a limited run, but there's still a few if you want some. So go get kitted out, get some merch. And then Robbo. Robbo returned.
Bloody oath.
Robbo is back. So Robbo's rundown, that'll go out tomorrow at some point for all the Debrief premium listeners. There's a great bit that he did at the very end of our conversation around Aaron Davey, Flash.
Yeah.
Going to clip that up and get that one out on the socials maybe tomorrow or Wednesday, and people can reminisce. And if you're one of the much younger gen that listen or watch this podcast, Aaron Davey, when he burst on the scene, was unbelievable, like something we've never seen before in football, and that's what Robbo spoke about. So there's a fair bit in the chat because we hadn't spoken for a good 2 months. So it was quite funny talking to Robbo about the fact that we were 0-5 and then suddenly we're 3-5. So it was an interesting conversation. And the other thing is I'm going to leave you with a bit of a tease. And only the Debrief Premium subscribers will be able to access this. And if you want to become a member, it's only $42 annually or $5 a month. So we put a freeze on that ever since we put it out. So we haven't jacked it up. It's just a cup of coffee a month if you want to support it. But he does speak about a potential father-son, and it's definitely not Kalani White. He actually had a go at Jeff and said he'd go up to Queensland and bash him.
He turned 18 today, Kalani.
He did. Shout out to Kalani. We're just getting you primed and ready for the home base at Casey. In perpetuity out there at Casey. We're going to build this grand plan out there. No, I'm just joking. But Kalani, Robbo was very big on Jeff's got to make the right decision.
Yeah.
I think the older boys are going to get onto him. But there's another player waiting in the wings from the same vintage. So I'll let you know off air. But for all the Debrief Premium subscribers that support the show, it was really interesting, the player that's coming through and the old man, who it is. his young boy, so he might be 3 or 4 years away, but he almost reckons he's a lock. So,
Wow.
cool. Yeah.
Do you know
cool.
what position?
Interestingly, his old man played as a forward, but he reckons he's more of an inside bull. So, yeah, really cool. Really cool. I just love the father-sons. I think it's one of the great things in footy.
Yeah, well, we've got heaps coming through at the moment, it feels like.
Yeah. Kalani, come on.
Yeah.
Love Jeff. He's such a nice man, so we shouldn't put too much pressure on him. But, mate, I need to wrap it up because I will start nodding off now, and I will say stupid things like the home base out at Casey and getting it done. So I don't want to say more of those things. I just want to thank you for your time. I'm actually going to see you tomorrow, which will be good. You'll see a different side of Adrian, the business side of Adrian. So it'll be really good, mate. So we'll catch up. We'll get stuck in, and we'll build our own grand plan like Paul will down at Casey.
Yeah, beautiful. Nah, thanks for getting me on. You toughed it out like Maxie would have. You just put your head over it. You sort of trudged up and down, and you got the job done. You dug us out of the hole that we're in. But no, seriously, thanks for having me on. Always love chatting D's. I think we're a sniff and a half against the Hawks. I feel like
a half as well.
Could our defensive, mechanism strangle this offensive powerhouse? Because we've done it to many teams that have threatened offensively before. And I don't know, I think there's something in the quirky, quiet 120 when this team, the Hawks, have been playing in front of 80,000 and 80,000. You rock up, it's a little bit quieter. It's sort of you got to warm up in the morning. So maybe that'll spook them. Maybe the body clock will get them more than the D's performance will. But thanks for getting me on, and I can't wait to listen to many more eps coming up when I'm not in them.
Love it. Well, I'll see you tomorrow.
Beautiful. See you then.